Welcome back to another episode of the Tommy Brideson Show. I want to talk about training and why you really need to enjoy it, because at the end of the day, training should be an enjoyable process. It's a privilege. We get to show up, we get to train, we get to, improve on ourselves. So I think, when we look at the fitness industry as a whole, we've got all these little subsections. We've got functional fitness, we've got CrossFit, we've got weightlifting, we've got powerlifting, we've got bodybuilding. And the reality is, when we're looking at that from the external, they're the really nuanced, niched areas that are competitive sports for the most part. They're something that people do to really push the dial in a competitive manner. But when we're looking at it from a training standpoint and, the everyday person that rocks up to the gym, training should have an element of enjoyment. Yes, training also is hard. It's not always going to feel easy. And, part of that actual process is, working through a little bit of struggle, through, fatigue, through, increasing weight, increasing reps. That's all granted. So this isn't like a ticket to not train hard, but you should lean into what you enjoy. Now if a skinny male that's really not confident might find a lot of peace in lifting some heavy weights, they might find that, that strength stimulus gives them some confidence, makes them feel great, and sort of has that flow on effect into, other areas of their life. You might find someone that was a skinny kid that did, a lot of athletics growing up, but really just sort of, enjoy getting a pump, enjoy putting on muscle mass, so for them, they're going to lean more into building muscle mass, which is fantastic, but imagine this, here's the scenario. Imagine if you rocked up into a gym and there's no such thing as a specialized gym and you had no program, no coach, and you just rocked up and it's what would you do? You would probably lean into what feels best, and you'd probably lean into, for wherever you fit within that sort of continuum, whatever it, serves your purpose. And at some points in time, it might be building strength, and some points in time, it might be, building muscle mass. And, the way that you look at the lifestyle and the journey of training as well, you're going to have many different checkpoints along the way. Like what you start out on in your training program may rapidly change into something else. Say for instance, you come in, you go, hey, I really like bodybuilding and, I really want to bodybuild and, I want to put on some muscle mass, but, there's a lot of discomfort associated with building muscle mass as well. So you might go, actually, I don't really like being this heavy. This amount of muscle mass that I have means that I can't run. And, there's a flow-on effects into life that are negative. You might go, well, okay, well, maybe I don't want to do bodybuilding. Maybe I want to try more functional fitness and be lean and, be athletic and conditioned, so your training journey is actually a continuum where, where you start is where you may not finish as well. And that's so okay, because that is actually part of that training process. Now, when you have a look at anyone that's been training for a really long period of time, sometimes you just mentally need a break. You need to check out from whatever it is and just, shake up the routine and do something completely polar opposite. Now, if you look at a training year, for instance, and, something that's spoken a lot about within the fitness industry is training variability. And it's having periods of the year that's dedicated to non-specific training. Back in the day, it would be more like a general preparation phase where you just get absolutely flogged by your coach and just do a ton of, output in terms of high reps and, aerobic fitness and stuff like that. But the reality is, for the active lifter, the conversation around training variability is the thing. And what it does is when you're really hyper-focused on a particular area of training, let's just say it's strength training, you're really hyper-focused. It takes a lot of mental determination, a lot of grit to want to be strong. It takes a lot of sets, a lot of reps, but with that, becomes a lot of mental fatigue. Sometimes it actually weighs down on you where you lose the enjoyment of your actual training session itself. And, you kind of want to, you hear often a lot of people powerlifters speak about, they say, I just want this comp done, because they're done with mentally having to show up, physically having to show up every single session. Now, don't get me wrong. That's all well and dandy. It's fun. It's a sport. But at periods of time, you need to also then go, okay, well, how do I shake up this routine a little bit? How do I keep things fresh? How do I lean into something that I find really enjoyable so that my motivation for training can be higher long-term? Because the reality is training enjoyment is, by far one of the most important things that you need, because, if, say for instance, I saw something that someone said that they don't like to train legs, they train upper body 4 days a week. Fantastic. Does it mean that I agree with the ethos of it and the approach to their training? Probably not, because I think you probably need to train your legs. But the reality is for them, it's like, well, I either train 4 days or I train 2 because I don't want to train my legs, So for them, the better option is leaning into what they enjoy and doing a 4-day upper body split. And it's like, who are we to judge? It's, when we're looking at it, it's like we should be encouraging people to live that type of lifestyle. We should be encouraging people to get into the gym. And, at certain points in time, if you need to shift up your routine, go for it. Like I've come, my training journey personally, I've come from, surfing growing up, surfing, skating. I've gone into, marathons and ultras. I've gone into specifically strength training, powerlifting, and now I'm in a bit more of a different phase where I'm focusing more so on lifestyle metrics and health and fitness, right? So, and that may change again in a year's time. Who knows? But the reality is each one of those phases were based on enjoyment and what I actually wanted to get out of it, what I thought was adding to my life at that particular point in time. I was getting something out of it that was meaningful and that, had a flow and effect into everything else that I did. So, when we're looking at this training, it should be something that we're looking to complement our lifestyle with and add to our lifestyle with, so that, we can continue to grow and evolve. And if that's competitive powerlifting, that's competitive powerlifting. If it's Olympic weightlifting, that's fantastic. If that's being the most large human and bodybuilding, that's fantastic. You lean into what it is that you enjoy at that point in time. But there will become points in time where you may actually have an identity crisis, because you're like, your whole world is revolved around this one thing. And, the linchpin of your success and your human existence is based around what it is that you identify that you do. And it's at those points that you go, well, actually, what do I train for? Like, what is it that I do this for? And you see a lot of people that once they're past that competitive kind of powerlifting or bodybuilding stage, they will shift their training a little bit and they'll be like, well, why am I training? And what am I trying to get out of it? And it's at that point there that, you sort of have to potentially just go back to just enjoying training, going back to your grassroots, and then figuring out what a new you is, right? Like there's life after powerlifting, there's life after bodybuilding. And, for anyone that's been training for a significant amount of time, they're going to continue to train. So it's probably like the easiest way out of that is just lean back into what it is that you do best, and it's train and just enjoy the process of training. You might end up, trying a few different methods. You might lean into cardio, you might lean into running. You see actually last year there was a bit of a thing going on in Australia where people were running in conjunction with lifting heavy, and they had this whole little thing going on of being like a hybrid athlete. It probably was worldwide as well, but honestly, I felt like it was just a big bunch of powerlifters that were not fit, that were kind of a little bit washed up and a bit, overtraining and, over the heavy, nuanced approach of lifting heavy, and wanted to try something new and shake things up. The reality is I haven't heard about anything like that in the last, 3 to 6 months time. So it was obviously just a period of time. And, that's awesome, because group of people got in together, they worked on different, fitness and strength qualities and had some time, a good time training. So, for some people, if you train at a strength focused gym, we'll be like, oh, like I have to do powerlifting. It's like, well, no, you don't, because strength is so much bigger than just powerlifting. It's building physical qualities, good technique, and adding to what it is that you do. And it's the same as if you were training in a bodybuilding gym. You don't have to compete in bodybuilding. It's just a nuanced component of that training. So, here I am sitting here saying, like I own essentially a powerlifting gym and a rehab facility, but powerlifting is an awesome sport. Bodybuilding is an awesome sport, but there's more to training. And as you move through your progression and your lifestyle of that actual training journey, you're going to find that, things may change for you. And, the best thing that you can do that's going to keep you motivated, for lack of better words, is lean into what you enjoy. And, at periods of times, you may only have an hour to train 4 days a week. And you might have to go, okay, well, what am I going to sacrifice? I can't justify spending, 40 minutes of my training session warming up to get a top set for squats. So I'm going to have to scrap the whole powerlifting thing for a little bit and lean into just building some muscle and having some fun with my training, because at that period of time, you do not have enough time to execute what is needed to be a powerlifter, for instance. So if you're in a funk, if you've had an injury, if you're new to training or you're trying to sort of like step into a different world, lean into what feels good, because you will find your processes through the enjoyment. Like, training should be fun. It's a privilege. It's something that we get to do, and it shouldn't be a chore. Yes, it's hard work, but the thing is, it's a choice that we get. And when we do it well, it's a really impactful tool that we can have to flow onto our lifestyle and our life. So training should be enjoyable, and it should be something that you incorporate into your day-to-day, not be a drag on the side. That's it for today's episode. I'll see you guys in the next one.